Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the show. Today, we're going to take a look at a topic that I've been meaning to do for a long, long time. As a fan of rock and metal and prog music for most of my life, it's always been interesting to kind of investigate and look at the nature of the way that fans of certain bands follow their bands and their loyalty or their not loyalty or their way of dissecting catalogs and albums and really nitpick about certain things to the point where it almost becomes like, is the fan base of this particular band, are they really fickle? Are they really toxic, right? And you see this all the time. But it always seems like there are certain bands where this sticks out more than others. And I've decided, and there's more bands than the ones I'm going to talk about today, but I've decided to pick out three bands in particular that I have noticed over the years, and especially here on the channel and on the webzine, right? But where, every new album, the debate rages about the production and the songwriting and the arrangements and the style and the tours and what they're playing on the tours and why are they playing these songs? Why aren't they playing those songs? Why is this album so long? Why are there no more catchy melodies anymore? Why are there so many long interludes and all this kind of stuff, right? And I decided to pick out Iron Maiden, Metallica, and Dream Theater. We could go Rush, we could go Kiss, we can go all the. I mean, maybe that's an episode for another day. But I decided to go with these three bands basically because this is what I see on a regular basis when any new album comes out from these three bands or any tours or anything like that. There's just all this debate rages, not just here on the channel. I see it out there in the wild. I see it on social media and Facebook and everything. People just like going berserk, just complaining or praising to the nth degree, to the point where you have people like fighting and arguing about stuff relating to the music of these bands, to the point where it's just like, wow. It's like either these people are really, really passionate, or they take that passion and they go to one extreme or the other, right? And then all of a sudden it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters except for my opinion, right? And the bands are just probably just sitting there going, wow, it's like we just put out a new album. Look at all this, right? So I decided to kind of break it down a little bit with these three bands, and I actually went on to videos that we've done here on the channel for new releases and things or whatever from these bands, and give you kind of a glimpse of the extreme nature and differences between opinions on these bands and some of their new albums, and just so you can get like a little feel for the debates that go on out there and how some opinions are so vastly different from others, right? So what I'm going to do is I actually put together like a little PowerPoint presentation where I went and grabbed quotes and things. And if some folks are watching, you see one of your quotes on here. I didn't list any names or anything like that, but you'll know it because if you wrote it, you'll know it. So let me go share my screen here. All right. So here we go. Who has the most fickle fan base? Right. And let me start the slideshow here. Here we go. Hopefully that's all loading up here. All right. So here we have the first. So Iron Maiden, Metallica, and Dream Theater. So let's go to Iron Maiden first. So Senjutsu, right, came out a couple of years ago. Our review for Senjutsu got over 30,000 reviews and over 800 comments. This is when I put this together. This was a couple of weeks ago, so I'm sure those numbers are higher at this point in time. But I wanted you to see some of these comments here. So here's one. These later day Maiden albums are arduous and overblown. No new wave of British heavy metal should have albums over 80 minutes. Maiden gained popularity from a tight metal sound, not progressive nonsense. Okay. I'd argue there were plenty of progressive things going on those first couple albums. Phantom of the Opera, Hallowed Be Thy Name, 22 Acacia Avenue, just to name a couple, right? I mean, I still think there was plenty of that stuff early on. Sure, they took it to another level for sure. Here's another comment. The saddest part about this album is it really shows the band's age. Okay. And here on the other end of the spectrum, top album of the latest 15 years from Iron Maiden, no contest. So Senjutsu is the best album in 15 years from them, and arguably a strong contestant for the top three position in all of their career. Would love to see and hear it played live from start to finish. Wow. Okay. Another one, went back to this album during the holidays to see if it improved, and I'm sorry, it's still shit jutsu. That's a great one. They were never the same after Killers. Dickinson has his moments, but their best work was still their first two albums. The rest, the odd highlight here or there, but mostly meh. You do meet those people every now and then who swear up and down that the first two albums of Paul Di'Anno are the only really good Iron Maiden albums. I love those first two albums. I have a hard time with that statement, though. I mean, how can you discount Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, everything, all those, especially all those 80s albums, especially all those 80s albums, right? Power Slave, I mean, come on. Let's see. I think this album ranks up with anything they've ever produced, and I think The Parchment and Hell on Earth are two of the best songs they have ever composed. Death of the Celts is killer too. So here you have this Senjutsu sucks. It's the greatest thing they've ever done, or near the greatest thing they've ever done, right? It's like very few right in the middle. It's one camp or the other. This album is a drag, an auto parody like all their last albums. Dickinson sounds so annoying, pretending he could still sing high notes. Harris is decades done as a composer, the same boring stuff. After Seventh Son, this band went downhill. Again, of the people of the opinion that after the 80s, Iron Maiden were no good. You see a lot of that, right? Next one. Half the songs put you to sleep before they even pick up in any way. Kevin Shirley is a cancer to this band. They've become stale. Trim the fat, Maiden. So again, here I went and picked. You don't see a lot of like kind of in the middle viewpoints, which is probably somewhere where I'm at with Maiden, past and current, right? It's like I like these more later albums. I don't think they're as good as the classic 80s albums, but I find lots to enjoy on them. But you get a lot of people who are like, either, the new albums, every new album is the greatest thing they've ever done, which is probably a lot of bands always say, right? Or it's like every album after Seventh Son, everything post the 80s is no good, right? And picking apart how long the songs are and the production and all that kind of stuff. So again, a lot of it you can chalk up to, people are passionate. They grew up loving a band. They want to see certain types of characteristics and qualities from the early stuff. But the one guy hit it, on the head. It's like the band is older, right? Songwriting changes, the way you play changes, right? It's the way you record things, right? Everything changes, right? You grow up and maybe Maiden doesn't want to play that type of stuff anymore. I don't know, right? But you have to take all these things into consideration. All right, let's move on to Metallica. So Metallica released 72 seasons last year, 32,000 views as of when I did this, over 800 comments as well. So here we go. First comment, best I've heard from them in 35 years. Okay. I love the album. I think I just accept Metallica for who they are now. That's a very sensible comment, right? I wish more people would take that stance, right? You just have to, this is where the band is now, whether you're talking about Iron Maiden, Metallica, Dream Theater, Kiss, Scorpions, Judas Priest, whatever. This is where they are now. You either accept it or you don't. But and I think this person this is where this band is. I love them. I loved them then. I love them now. This is what they're doing now. And like I said, you either listen to it or you don't, right? So you like it or you don't. Lars is worse than ever. He has zero imagination. Why is it all up to Lars, right? Yeah, he's not the greatest drummer in the world, but whenever he does a fill, it's clunky, and you can tell he's a try hard. You can tell he's a try hard. You can tell he's trying hard. I don't know, whatever. This is based on my review. Solid review. In my opinion, it's slow, boring, and uninspired. Overall, it's a big disappointment. Glad you heard what I heard as far as the drumming goes. I'd much rather spend my time listening to the new releases by Mystic Prophecy, which has some killer drumming, or Tigers of Pantang. Okay, fair enough. This CD is terrible. Every song sounds the same. Pin it on the wall and throw darts in it. Ouch. Jesus. Next, not a true fan. Horrible. Thumbs down on this review. That's now he's reviewing my review. If you watched my review of this, I was basically in the middle. I like the album. I like plenty of songs on it. To me, it's a little too long. Some of the songs drag on a little bit too long, but I think there's a really strong 45, 50-minute album in 72 seasons. Apparently that wasn't good enough for this guy. You either have to be all in 100% and give it a 5 out of 5 star. Otherwise, you're not a true fan. I hate to tell you, buddy, I've been a fan since the Ride the Lightning. I fully came on board Ride the Lightning. I was a huge Metallica fan all throughout the 80s and the early 90s. I've accepted, and either you like or you don't like all their later stuff, but I call it like I see it. 72 seasons is a decent album. I like it, right? I don't love all of it. just the way it is. And this guy, next guy, I love Saint Anger. Honestly, well, you're one of the few, I guess, right? Saint Anger, I can't. You know, the Load albums and Saint Anger and Lulu, I can't get on board with. The rest of it, I don't really have an issue with. Psychological phenomenon. People all over the world want this album to be great so badly that they turn into Metallica disciples trying to convince others of it. That's another thing. You know, so many people want Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets again. And they will, you know, I think we've all been guilty of this. So when every new album comes out, you pick out the little bits and pieces that remind you of the greatness. And all of a sudden it makes the whole rest of the album great just because there are little fleeting moments, right? I get that. Totally get that. Combined with an absolutely dimensionless, badly photoshopped album artwork, this one leaves me after first to fifth impression as a what the fuck moment. Yeah, the cover CD album, it's a mess, right? It's a disaster, but yeah, whatever. So lots of varying debates here. Next up, we're going to go to Dream Theater. So I took a view from the top of the world, right? 300 plus comments, lots of views. What do we got? 22,000 views as of when I did this. I have to say that I respectfully disagree. I think the album is really underwhelming and is just recycling old formulas. They are all incredible players, but it just doesn't scratch that itch for me. Now, the thing with Dream Theater, right, is Dream Theater among their fans are held up to ridiculously high standards as far as arranging, producing, and all the little musical bits that are thrown in. Everything for a lot of the true fans has to be absolutely perfect. Everything has to be original, all that kind of stuff. I've never seen any band get put under the microscope as far as every little note placement on every song on every album like these guys do. And you'll see some of that here. Distance Over Time and A View from the Top of the World for me are Dream Theater's best album since Train of Thought. I think the last two Dream Theater albums are terrific as well. And I will say, I don't know about best since Train of Thought, but I don't think, other than to me, The Astonishing, I don't think personally that Dream Theater has put out a bad album. And that album has its moments, but it just doesn't work for me as a whole. But I think their last two albums have been the strongest they've done in years, absolutely. Dream Theater, once again, do the same. That's so boring and anti-prog. Prog isn't the search not to do the same thing that Yes. Honestly, I have no idea what he's getting to here because Dream Theater never tried to be Yes. So I don't know what that means. DT1s again do the same. That's so boring and anti-prog. Prog is the search not to do the same thing that Yes. Not only can he can't spell, but I don't really know what he's getting at. Anyway, all right. Audio dynamic range equals 7 across the board. Loudness war CD sounds overly congested as if all instruments were funneled into a tube. Absolutely void of wide stage stereo separation, high fidelity. Consumers are habitually being ripped off by the record companies. Wouldn't waste a penny on it. But then again, those who are used to it may not know any better. C'est la vie. Okay, whatever. Yes, the sound is very good and cool artwork, but the songs aren't very good, I don't think. Seems more of the same, lack of strong ideas. And you got to wonder, like, how many people listen to this once, right? And it's like, you know, a band like Dream Theater, you can't just one listen, this doesn't do it. And a lot of times what I would do is I would see these kind of responses, you know, like the day of the album's release or the day that I post the video, right? It's just like, wow, how many times did you really listen to this? The best album since Metropolis Part 2. Wow, forget Train of Thought. Now this is the best album since Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory. Wow. Now, some comments on Mike Portnoy coming back to the band in place, and Mike Mangini is out, right? So when Portnoy left and they replaced him with Mangini took a ton of heat, right? He's too mechanical. He doesn't have the personality of Portnoy. It's not going to work. The albums aren't the same anymore. That Portnoy, I mean, Mike Mangini took a lot of shit the first few years. Now that Portnoy's back and Mike's out, they sacked the poor guy just to get back in people's mouths. So in other words, just this guy saying that just they made the drummer switch. Portnoy came back just so everybody could talk about Dream Theater again. I hate to tell you, but I think it's about a lot more than that. Mike Portnoy was always coming back to this band. Always. It was always going to happen. Earlier this week, think how Dream Theater have fallen off. Desperation move. So it's a desperation move to bring Mike back. Really? Nah, you know anything going on behind the scenes or whatever, that's not the case. Not sure what I think about this. Love the drumming by Mangini. He'd fit them better in my humble opinion, but time will tell. Man, granted, there's a lot of people praising and loving the fact that Portnoy is coming back, but I just wanted to make sure I hit on some of these because when Mike left and Mangini came in, Mike took a ton of heat. He really did. How can you replace the irreplaceable? His drumming is too mechanical and this, that, and the other thing. And I remember every album, it's like, oh, his drum parts aren't as interesting and all this kind of stuff. Now all of a sudden, oh no, we're now used to Mangini. We love Portnoy, but we don't want him back, right? Crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy. So, there are a lot of other examples of people going to the left, going to the right, some down the middle. But I think if you really like start doing the research and you really go out and read like reviews of some of the more recent albums by these bands and reviews of tours and things like that, you will see a lot more of this. Even more extreme than what I've shown you today. And it's just so funny how some bands like spark the outrage and the scrutiny so much more than others. You get some bands that they release a new album, it's like, hey, you like it, you don't, whatever. But some, especially these three, man, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of remarks and opinions that rage and arguments that start, and it's just like it's all just music, people. It's like, we love these bands, we don't love these bands, whatever, but everything that they do just creates this like fever that is really kind of unmatched with a lot of other bands that are out there. So yeah, like I said, there are other bands that this happens with, but I just wanted to kind of point out some things with these three in particular, because these three always stick out to me as some of the bands that we talk about here on the channel, where the chaotic worship or non-worship or opinions is just goes off the charts no matter what they do, right? So hope you had a little fun with it, right? Like I said, if you want to be really entertained, go here on the channel, do a search for anything, any video that we have or reviews, album reviews on any of these three bands, and just sit and read the hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of comments. And you'll see it's like all over the map. It's always fun. I do it every now and then. I'm just like, wow, like look at that, wow. And then one guy will say one thing, and one person will say the other, and it'll be completely opposite. It's amazing how people's opinions or perceptions of things that these bands do can be so polar opposites, right? So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also, down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. Thank you in advance for all your support there. And we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. Have a good one. Bye-bye.